So, hello, and happy Easter. This is Pam Gallagher, head of Midwest School of Astrology, Cincinnati, Ohio. If somebody picks this up on YouTube and doesn't really know who I am, we all assume that we all know each other, but that's not. We had over 700 different hits on each of the other recordings. So we didn't send this out live to the entire world. We just sent it to people who have been online, who are in our closer circle. We will put it on YouTube. Mindy will later today. So anybody that you want to refer back to it, knock yourself out. Okay. Today is April 12th, 2020, and we're in the middle of a social crisis in our world. We're in the middle of a spiritual crisis in our world. And of course, we're in the middle of social distancing and national quarantine, basically. And it's interesting that the virus came basically out of nowhere and took the world by storm. It's bigger than any of us. It's bigger than one country. It's bigger than one political system. It's bigger than one economic system. And it's hit people from the very poor to the very rich, and everybody in between. So, it has no favorites. But it is a time of learning, and I certainly am conscious of that. And today I put up the chart for the transits at the current time. And we've done a couple of talks about what I think this is about. But today it's Easter, and Easter is a day of celebration of new life, celebration of coming to life. Where Jesus rose, he came back, he was alive again. And so I think it's a time when we're going to rise from the ashes, just like the phoenix. The phoenix gets old and he gets worn and he gets beat up. And if you've watched Harry Potter, if you didn't know the story of the phoenix, how the universe comes around way back in when I was 21, 22 years old, belonged to an amateur theater group in Cincinnati. And the only real on live stage performance I ever did was the Phoenix Bird in a play. And of course I knew about but I really didn't know about the Phoenix. But doing that part and living that and then seeing it in Harry Potter brought it to life for me. And the story of the Phoenix, of course, is the Phoenix grows and gets bigger and bigger, and then it gets old and it starts to fall apart, and feathers become frayed, and age sets in, as it does in all cycles of life. And then the Phoenix burns up. He transforms. He goes to fire. He totally transforms. He goes to death and rebirth and comes out as a new Phoenix bird. And so on Easter Sunday, as I think about Jesus rising, I think about the Phoenix, and I think about, because, of course, I think in astrological terms, as many of you know, because that's my symbology. And Pluto is the planet of transformation. Pluto's our most outer planet. It's 248 years, depending upon what point you're marking from. In other words, Pluto is our most outer planet. It takes the longest to go around in our solar system at this point in time that we're conscious of. Pluto wasn't discovered until 1930. And during that time, we had the crash, we had the atomic bomb, we had war, we had devastation, we had corruption, and then we came back. And so Pluto was the great transformer. Go back and think what was happening when Pluto was discovered in the Great Transformation. And now Jupiter and Pluto, Jupiter has a orbit of 12 years, So Jupiter zips around from all the way around the cycle every 12 years and catches back up with Pluto at probably 12 and a half, 13 years, because Pluto hasn't gone very far in that period of time, if it takes it 248 years to chug around the circle. So when Jupiter and Pluto are now conjunct in the astrology world or together. And we looked at that, but I'm going to stay with that a moment because here we are. The first Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, it was exact on April 5th. Sometimes Jupiter comes up, hits Pluto, and keeps right on moving. However, this time Jupiter is retrograding, or there's no such thing as a planet going backward, but it's called apparent backward motion, which means it slows down in relationship to everything else. So Jupiter came up over the degree that Pluto's sitting on. It comes up, it goes back over that degree of Pluto, and then comes back in November. And so it's called the retrograde and direct motion. So let us think, if Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system, and Jupiter's about expansion and big and growth, okay? And Pluto's about transformation. So I don't think anybody will argue with the fact that we are in a Jupiter-Pluto time. It is big, it is expansive, and it is transformational. Now, we don't go through this every 13 years. It's just that it happened to have occurred along with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and some other major things that are going on in the sky. So it's the grouping of all this energy that makes it significant. So here's April, and then we start mid-June, early July, and Jupiter returns. And here we have this extreme, and then start mid-June. It's like, okay, how are we doing? Have we transformed? Have we burnt up the old? Have we gone to ashes? What do we have to resurrect from? And it's November before that conjunction is complete, and we come back. And then there's a big major 20-year Jupiter-Saturn, a mark of society changing and growing and having new birth in December on the winter solstice, by the way. So we knew that, and I talked about it the other week when we were on, but I wanted to reiterate it to those of you that were listening and, and refreshing yourselves on where are we? We are in a major Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And in the last week, and that's why I said to you, we would do this again. Because 2 weeks ago, Jupiter and Pluto had not yet, they were just conjuncted. And so today is the 12th, and you're like, wow, okay. So we can see that Pluto's 24 and Jupiter's 25, and 25 is more than 24. So Jupiter has moved beyond it. We know it's going to come back, but... And then I had told you that Mars, the planet of energy and action, was going to square Uranus. Mars square Uranus. And you're like, okay, change, new, action. And so that happened. That happened a few days ago, too. It happened on the full moon, actually, April 7th. And I had said, I think the week of April 7th, we will have, you're right, Candace, Uranus is unpredictable action. And we've got unpredictable action because no one knows exactly how things are going to respond, how they're going to act. But Mars is now past. Mars is the faster moving. Uranus is at 5, and Mars is already at 8. So Mars is past 5. It's called separating. It's not magic. It's just language. It's just languaging for universal movement. We are watching the patterns of the universe. Every culture, every civilization we've ever studied has studied the patterns of the universe. And before we opened it today, I was talking to one of the gals who turned on her microphone for a few minutes beforehand, and we were chatting. And we were talking about how this can change things. And I said, once you begin to study, once you begin to learn, you can't unlearn. Once you know, you cannot unknow. Once you see, you cannot unsee. And once you speak, you cannot unspeak. So that also is very, very important. So once we speak, we cannot unspeak. So we have to think about that. And so why I warned everybody 2 weeks ago with Mars squared Uranus, be careful what you say. Be careful how you unpredictably take action or blurt something out. And so I want to warn you more of that today, because if I go back, here was the full moon that we just had. And we talked a lot about that 2 weeks ago. And that was recorded on YouTube. You can listen. But the planet Mercury. Mercury is the winged messenger in Greek mythology. And Mercury is the communicator. And so he delivers the message. He's the communicator. He's the speaker. And Mercury was in Pisces. Pisces is a water sign. It's soft. And so Mercury is quieter and more subtle and more visionary in Pisces. And so everybody was confused, fogged, Pisces, in their little world and not knowing what to think. And now we've moved to today. And Mercury's been chugging, life keeps moving. Even though most of us are sitting home at a little quieter pace, the planets are still moving. Thank you, God. And so Mercury is now in Aries. And many astrologers online are writing, Mercury in Aries is much more direct, feisty, fiery, looking for a fight. It's also quick. So Mercury in Aries is much quicker to get the thought than Mercury in Pisces, who wants to ponder it, okay? But as Mercury moves about 1 degree a day, how fast is it moving now? 1.5. So it's only probably going to be in Aries 22 days, zipping right along. So while Mercury is in Aries over the next 20 to 22 days, I want to remind everybody to be careful. Mars is the warrior. Mars has his gun. Mars has his spear with the pointed edge. So think before you shoot that arrow. It can be quick and it can be painful and it can be hurtful. So I'm going to be a little more philosophical today because it is Easter, and I think it is a time of resurrection or rethinking. And I do think that Jupiter is saying, okay, where are we? Are we transforming? Have we learned the lesson? And so I, this morning, jotted down a few little notes of things as I was thinking about the chart. And I thought, am I responsible for my actions? If I have a passion for animals, am I donating time or money to the animal shelter? If I have a passion for kids, am I contributing to something that would help the kids, help the children, help feed the children in your community? Whether you have the energy to go or whether the social distancing keeps you from going, what can you do? We're not going out. We're not spending it at the restaurants, although I suggest that you eat out once a week or two, so the restaurants that you love don't go out of business. But are you happy where you are? And I truly believe that while we are in this Phoenix metamorphosis transition of burning up the old, turning to ash so that we can come back new, isn't that what the Phoenix does? Wasn't that the message of Easter? Was to go to stop and resurrect, and here we are. So I think we're on our way back, if that's what you're wanting me to say. Where do I think we are? But I showed you the timeline for Jupiter, Pluto, and quite frankly, I think mid-June we can look. But let me tell you that the planets will not tell us what the outcome. Only we can do that. What does that mean? What are we doing? The Sun and Mercury are in the sign of Aries now, and so is Chiron, the wound of the soul. Aries is the sign of self, independence, self-actualization, taking action. So even sitting where you are, how are you using your energy? Are you being kind? Are you being open-minded? Are we being solid, clear, kind, non-judgmental? Every time we throw out a negative thought form, it lives and they glob together and then they come back and attack us. You know, the universe is not a punishing universe. It's our own negativity that's biting us in the butt. So, you know, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. So as we are in Aries and the sun's in Aries, it's shining light on, what about me? What am I doing? Personally, we're sitting down here in Florida behaving ourselves. We're in a resort. Everything's shut down, the beach, the pool, even the tennis courts and the little putt-putt course out here. They can't, we're going to have an Easter egg hunt. We can't even let the kids they won't let us get on the putt-putt golf course to hide Easter eggs because they have rules. And I respect their rules, except that their rules are rather selfish. And so it's not reasonable. So are your rules, and are you being reasonable, or are you being selfish? So I just ask you, here we are. We are in this Phoenix. We are in this Pluto transformation, and we're sitting right in the middle of the burning fire. And at our core, how are we spending our day? What are our priorities? And how are we dealing with the people around us? Are we angry? Are we judgmental? Are we kind? Are we giving people the benefit of the doubt? I don't know. All I'm asking you is to be responsible for what you say and do, because right now we're in Aries, and Aries is self. And so we will have to answer for ourselves, not anybody else. So what the neighbors are doing, or even the people in this resort, how they choose to live is their choices. So we're having the Easter egg hunt on our own little postage stamp here. And the kids are going to try to have their day. And we invited their little friends that they play with every day. There's one other family. And we'll be outside and we'll, obey the rules. Why? Why obey the rules? Because I have some people who say, this is nonsense and I'm just going to go do what I want to do. Well, we can do that, but is that Aries selfish, or is it self-awareness of our own personal responsibility? So I'm just asking you, what are you responsible for and what are you doing? And so until Jupiter comes back and touches Pluto and we get to the next level of this transformation, it's like, okay, what am I, what's this transformation about? We're not quite there. The nodal axis, this nodal axis is where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's ecliptic. And so those of you that have studied, or those of you that have been to me, have heard me talk about the nodes, because it's our spiritual arrow. It's our spiritual marker. And so South Node is old, and it's in Capricorn, and the North Node is in Cancer at 1. Now, nodes move backward, because meaning clockwise. The planets move counterclockwise. They're moving through the zodiac. Very soon, and I'll show you, April 22nd, the North Node will be at 0 Cancer Capricorn, the mark of the summer solstice, the mark of the cardinal new cycle. So North Node in Aries. And you're like, wow. So if I go back, if I come up, here is the new moon of April 22nd. Now today is the 12th. This is 10 days away. And by then we have a new moon every month. We have a new moon and a full moon every single month. But the new moon is in Taurus, and it will be conjunct the planet Uranus, which is change, destiny, and breaking loose. So by the end of April, we're going to begin to break loose. We're going to begin to figure a new way. And guess what? The North Node and the South Node, the North Node's only on zero Cancer once every 18 and a half years. It marks the eclipse times, but it also marks a new season. When the nodes come to zero Aries Libra or to Cancer Capricorn, we have a new cycle. So I do see that I'm breaking up, Chris. Thank you. I'm watching this, and I'm watching, obviously, the load on the system. That's another thing let's talk about very quickly. Do you realize that the system we thought would carry us through all this, which is our social media and our communication system, is breaking down over the overload? Dawned on me the other morning that if anybody really wanted to destroy us, they'd just knock out our electricity and everybody would come to a screeching halt, would they not? Then we'd really have to go down to self. I don't know. If I don't know that if the younger generations would make it through that, they might have a nervous breakdown over it. Can we live without electricity in our media? Interesting thought. So, I believe that this new moon with Uranus, Candace said she didn't want to think about it. Well, I did think about it this morning because Uranus does rule electricity in the new, but Uranus is also to break loose. And so this new moon, the end of April, begins to break up the old pattern. So we shall see. We'll see how, there's Mindy. She just came into the room. We will see. Yeah. I know I was losing it. So I see lots of fun people on here, and I'm glad to see that. Like I said, we did not send this to everybody, so we would not have a huge load. So those of you that want to tell somebody to listen on YouTube later, you certainly can. Uranus will be with this new moon. Moon sun is a new moon, and there's Uranus to break loose. And so I feel, but remember, when we get to the end of May 22nd, then we have a full moon on May 7th. We have one every month. This is not the end of the world, but it's at 17 Taurus Scorpio. These are all placed, you'll know, for Washington, D.C., and you're like, I don't live in Washington, D.C., but it is the capital of our country, and so that's where you run the charts for. Please notice that Jupiter, Pluto have kind of widened their gap. Things get better. And then we will go to the solar eclipse of June 21. When we get to, now, we have eclipses twice a year. They're called eclipse seasons. And notice that an eclipse, it could happen at any degree. They always happen close to the nodes because that's what an eclipse is. It's a lunation at the nodes that gives you a shadow. That's the definition of an eclipse. But eclipses are 10-to-1 in power over a regular lunation, new moon or full moon. So this new moon is with the North Node, which makes it an eclipse, and it's a solar eclipse. And throughout history, going back to 2000 BC, we have found cuneiform clay tablets that were plotting the solar eclipses because they saw that as the major changing points in their world, in their government, in wars, and in their social strata system. So the North Node, the solar eclipse with the North Node at 1 degree, it is a total eclipse to be seen between Tibet and Hong Kong. So that's where we will see the first resurrection. That's where we're going to see the first coming back to life. The first to go down will be the first head to pop up. But or if they happen to, I don't know, do we reinfect? I hope not. And I think I don't think the universe is a punishing universe, people. I truly, truly believe that our willingness to love one another and be considerate of one another and care about we're all in this together, and that even though you may think, well, I'm not going to get this, I'm healthy, but you might be the carrier. And so we have some social responsibility. And so that's what I ask you. We're approaching the next gate. We are approaching the next gate. And when we get to June, the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. They're both retrograde. They're coming back to 24, 25. Even Saturn, the planet of reality and our life lessons, is coming back. Jupiter and Saturn will make their conjunction in December. But this Jupiter-Pluto will come back together in June, into June. And so I say to you, where will we be? And I think those are choices. I don't think it's cast in stone. People are like, when will this be over? I'm like, when will people get the point? I don't know. And get what point? And so I ask you, are you at peace? Now, by this time, good old Mercury will be in Cancer. And that's a much more heartfelt, emotional feeling, new birth. Mars conjunct Neptune. Mars has already passed Neptune by then.
Yeah, let me call you back.
So Mars with Neptune, could it be possible? Sure, it could be possible reinfection, or it can be a spiritual awakening. And so I do believe that if you go back to May and June, and we're like, when does Mars, here comes Mars up to Neptune in the end of May. And so it says, how are we going to do? This is a test, people. This is not a predestined outcome. So in May, we have the new moon in Gemini and Mercury and Venus in Gemini and I think people are going to begin. So you know what I encourage you to do in May? The Mercury, Venus, I encourage you to speak to other people about kindness, about tolerance, about being kind, it's okay to have your opinion about how things are. Allow everybody that. Don't walk over them. Don't talk over them. Don't get on the internet and say that you're right and that you found the truth and everybody else is stupid. I mean, I'm really offended by that. I allow everybody their thoughts, and that's how we grow. We have beliefs, we have thought systems, we follow that road and we see where it takes us. We've been running pretty fast, and we've run and run and run, and here's the Phoenix. The Phoenix is sprayed, old, worn out, and beat itself to death. So here we are in the Pluto-Jupiter dance, And so it's because all of it is in Capricorn, which is Earth and real time in our base. So to answer your question of what you're saying, yeah, could Mars and Neptune, we all get reinfected? It could, but Neptune's also spirituality. So could we awaken to there's a higher principle of truth here and of testing? So let me ask you again, are you happy where you are? When Mars gets to Neptune and Jupiter and Pluto come back together for their dance, will we be kinder? Will we stop and let somebody else cross the street, so to speak? That was a paradigm, but metaphor. But by the time we get to June and we get to the solar eclipse, I think we truly have a chance to become the rebirth, to go into this solar eclipse, to be birthed, to grow again, to have the Phoenix come out as a young, healthy. But we've got to go through the fire, and guess where we are? We are at the gate. We are at the gate. And so, here's what I'm asking. Here's what the call is. As we look and we do it, let's use current time. Let's use the current time. We have Sun and Mercury in Aries. Self. So be responsible for yourself. Be responsible for what you think. Be responsible for what you say. Don't send out negative energy. Don't be critical. Don't have people have to spend their time defending themselves. Instead, let's try to find something positive to pull together to make this better. This is a planetary challenge. This isn't one country. So here's what I'm going to ask you. Between now and when we get to this full moon on May 7th. Basically a little less than a month from now. It's in Taurus. The sun, it's Scorpio Taurus. Sun in Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. And so I've asked you to daily, please wrap the planet in pink, because pink is pure love. And love is one of the most powerful. Love is not just gentle and kind and easy, and love is also strong and definitive, and will define and protect what it thinks is right. So, and by the way, for those of you in astrology, right now we have Venus behind the sun, calling it Occidental. Behind the sun, it's a softer Venus. So let us have a softer Venus, not the warrior Venus. So I'm asking you, in addition to seeing the planet in pink, because yes, white light is pure, and don't forget the white light. And by the way, wrap yourselves in white light, because if you, it's dangerous out there, energetically, because people are afraid. And I didn't want to focus on fear today, because I think everybody knows that fear is a dangerous thing, and try not to go there. Every time you think about it, you send more energy to that fear thought form that attacks those who are already afraid, and it makes it worse. Send white light to that. Let's see if we can shrink it. I want you to see the heart of the planet beating strong. Envision planet Earth and put a pink heart right in the middle, and see that heart of Earth beating strong, so that the planet gets healthy. Because right now the planet's fighting for its own survival, and we've all slowed down, and we've seen some positive things from it. We're going to go back to our lifestyles, but hopefully we're going to come with some new technology and some new, maybe a few new values. That would be nice. So I want you to see the part of the planet beating strong, full of love. See it in a strong pink light. And then I want you to invest in the victory. When you have a thought, I want you to send it toward victory, toward positive, toward survival, toward people getting well, toward people reaching out to one another. Remember, even though you're staying at home, what do you care about, and what are you doing to help that? We have energy. Do not just sit and think about yourself. What can you do to send a loving message? I don't care whether it's to a pet, to a neighbor, to a family member. Let's focus about something besides ourselves. So the two calls I have for you today is, please envision the heart of this planet beating strong and loving. Let's fill the planet with love. So that emanates out, so that people will back off and invest in the victory we want. I want us by June to be able to do a few things when Jupiter, Pluto come back. I don't want to wait until the fall when Jupiter, Pluto comes for the last time to see how we're doing. We have choices, people. We have choices, and I'm working very hard on mine. When I wake up in the middle of the night, and by the way, between 3 and 5 in the morning, some of the quietest time on the planet. So it's a time to meditate and pray and surround the planet, and do your visual work. But we're standing at the gate, and come in May, we stand a chance on May 22nd, on this new moon, Gemini, to speak, and Gemini is action and activity, to be able to move and go again, and hopeful with maybe we've learned something. Have you ever told a child they made a mistake and they got hurt, and you said, after you get them patched up and you stop the bleeding and you put on a Band-Aid, and then you say to them, what did you learn from this? Well, that's what the universe is asking us. What did we learn from this? This is one of the most intense, powerful conglomeration of planets that started back in December, January, that we've had in at least 500 years, and maybe longer. where they all joined in Capricorn on the world point degrees, which is critical. And so astrologers have been talking a long time for 2021, saying this is a turning point. We are coming into the new age. I didn't put up the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction today, but I'll show it to you on the graph. Just the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is on the winter solstice, December 21st. Jupiter and Saturn are the planets of society and culture and social norms, and we go new December 21st. We are in the dark night of the soul of planet Earth for a 20-year period at least, and really a 500-year period from a society standpoint because of the other ones. And so the next 30 days between now and early June, April, May, and then June, this is the testing time. Can we maintain? Because this is the hard time. It's hard. It's hard to stay in. I'm like everybody else, I'm tired of it. I want to go. So I ask you as we close, care about one another. Do something nice for somebody. I don't know, whoever is in your purview. Look around and say, what can I do? And then get happy with where you are. Are you content right in your now at this moment? I'm not saying that you aren't going to push to grow and do more things and have a purpose and have a plan, but are you okay? Are you good with what you're saying, what you're doing, what you're not doing? Are you happy? If not, fix it. We have choices. Okay. We've been at this. So back to the transit and back to today. And we started interesting, yes, thank you, Erin, with Leo rising, and I will bring up one last current transit. We're already at 23. Actually, we started out at 15 Leo, which is one of the fixed points. 15 of the fixed signs, 15 Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, are the four great pillars written about in the Bible. So I thought it was interesting that our transit, as we started today, was on the 15 Leo, which made me want to go to the four basic principles of life. And that's where we are. So, got any comments? You're more than welcome to make them. If you have a question, I'll be glad to answer it before we get off of here. Well, I hope it's helpful. I wanted to do, this doesn't end it all, and this doesn't make it cut and dried. No, Nadia, I didn't say that. I said if we go back, thanks for asking. No. No. If we go back, that Mars, we had Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and Mars back in December, January. But if you went back 500 years, we had not found a pattern like that. No. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and I will bring it up while anybody else is typing, but no, it's a 20-year. But it's a social cycle. It's not a 500-year cycle. The Jupiter-Pluto conjunction happens every 20 years. Bruce, yes, the four pillars of light written about in the Bible, the 15th degree of the fixed signs, Bruce. We'll talk about it in class. But it just, things pop up. Sometimes I haven't gotten to them. Yes, Carolyn's typing. This Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that happens every 20 years will be happening in an air sign for the first time in 250 years. And I'll tell you, it's starting a new cycle. And this would indicate that we're coming into the Aquarian age because it's in Aquarius. But we are beginning the new Aquarian cycle of 212 to 220 years, depending upon who you ask. But we don't step into that. It's not like, I'm in Brown County and I'm going to be in Warren County. We don't just step on it. You're welcome, Marianne. I'm glad you guys are on. I have no I have no permanent answers to this. Laney's on. Hello. Biggest takeaway, self-reflection, kindness, loving, moving forward. Continue to think of pink healing light. Please remember. Good, Laney. Thank you. Continue to put out positivity. If you're not happy, you're right with something, do something about it. Is that right? You got it. That's right, because you know what? The only person that can change, and everybody's sitting around saying, well, if they did this and they're wrong and they didn't do this, well, we're not sitting in their shoes. And we can't change our government. We can change ourselves. And I'm telling you, this is a grassroots movement. And so we can. And yes, people are aggravating us. Believe me, when I see things online and people are angry and negative and making harsh statements, I have to fight with myself not to get angry. I'll be very honest with you. And then I have to step back and say they're doing the best they can with what they've got, and they think they're right. So I'm telling you, self-monitor, people. Self-quarantine. Self-analyze. Thank you for your comments, though. Economics are saying this will be about an 18-month recovery. Do you see that? I truly believe Ed, and I know that was Ed that probably said it. I believe in December, when this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction occurs. This is a societal new cycle, and I think that by December, I believe that we're going to be much more back on our feet than we'd expected if we play the game between now and June. When I say that Mars conjunct Neptune on 6/12, and you can go to 5/22, and Mars is coming up, and it's on June 12th. They're all checkpoints, Karen. They are all checkpoints. I'll tell you where I think the biggest next grading point is on April 22nd. Taking action on dreams and fears. Yes, Mars. Are we going to use Mars negative? Are we going to use Neptune negatively or positively? Neptune is spiritual, it's universal, but it's also fears, and it's our shadow. So is the shadow going to bite you, or are you going to try to find something bigger to focus on? Sometimes we have to have courage to do what we're most afraid of, and you just got to do it anyway. Here's where I think the next gauging point, when we get to June 22nd in this new moon, because Uranus is there, and Uranus's nature is to break loose. And so this is where I hope to see the next step of progress, really. And Mindy and I are invested in this. We're sitting down here in Florida, and, wanting to come home and get on to our lives and get the kids back. And kids are missing their dad. Mindy's missing her husband, of course. And so it gets harder every day. But can we be happy in our now? I'm telling you, that's the current test. Because if you look at today's transits, kids, you can take today's transits and say, wow, it's all in Aries. It's all in Aries. And Aries is self. Are we okay with self? Be in the world, not of it. That's right. I've always said children come through us, not from us. And we need to be in the world, but not of the world. And so don't let the world define you. And we're going to get tested, people. The next 30 days, we will be tested. And Mindy's saying, respect the world around you. And even let other people be negative if that's where they are. If they're in fear and they're in anger, bless them. Think of that pink throbbing light and send it to them, boy. We do have to have a defense against it. So wrap yourself up in pink light and white light and protect yourselves. You can't change them. We cannot change anybody else. We can only step back and let them do it. That's the only defense we have. like living in multi-perspectives at one touch, right? Right. Aloha. Love is the foundation. Love is the foundation, Erin. And truly, truly, love is the foundation. And that's why I ask everybody to send pink light. See the planet wrapped in pink light. If someone is really aggravating them, you send them pink light, because love is a purifier. It's a transmuter. And we are in a major transformation. Be the phoenix, come out of this new, fresh, we want to come out of this with a fresh perspective. I don't want you to hold on to your old ideas, quite frankly. So you have to look what's bubbling up that I got to get rid of. Quite frankly, people that are very judgmental set my teeth on edge, and I have to stop that and allow them the freedom to be there, because that's where they are. I got to love them where they stand. I don't have to participate. I can separate myself, but I don't have a right to judge them. Then I'm doing what they do. So, if you don't like it, don't go there. That's all I can tell you. Anybody else got a question or astrological question or comment? We have a couple of people typing, and then we'll turn this recording off. Bruce said I have thousands. Yes, Christy, we will send the replay to class people, and we're going to put it on YouTube in the next hour. And so you can suggest it. It'll be a couple of hours before it's on YouTube. We have to download this in real time, and then we will put it on YouTube. When will Venus come into play again? Venus is always in play, Erin. It's a good question, but Venus is in Gemini currently. So Venus is in play. But right now, quite frankly, the focus, while everything's, that's a good point. When the sun, and we have that new moon in April on Taurus, that's a Venus ruled sign. And so it will really kick into play. But right now, the biggest focus of all is on self. And Mercury in Aries, watch your mouth. Oh. How can we tell if we do the right things? The next checkpoint, we can see success before 12/12. We're going to see it April 22nd. We're going to say, how are we doing? How are we doing when that sun and moon hit Taurus, which is a Venus-ruled sign? Are we being a little kinder and a little softer, and are people getting better? And then June 21 on the solar eclipse. But here's where Venus starts to take charge again, Erin. Right now, things are, I'm telling you, while everything's in Aries, it isn't the easiest time in the world. When are we meeting again? It says John Andrew, that's cute. Good question. What is today? Today is Sunday, seemed to be, and 2 o'clock may not be the best time. Debbie Long says absolutely. Well, during this time, I may just continue this. Mindy, the 26th? Today's the 12th? We will plan on Sunday the 26th. We'll do some checking. It may be 1 or 3. Other people have planned, unless we're in the car, and then we'll do it on May 3rd. But let's plan to do something on the 26th, because I believe that if we can all come together, and by the way, before we close today, please take 1 second, close your eyes just 1 moment, and let us say, Dear Mother, Father God, angels of light, beings of the great universe, hear our call, use us for your good, and may we be part of the solution. May we be part of the vibration of love. Take, use, guide, and direct us in accordance with your holy will. Amen. And so it is, my people, and so it is. We will plan to meet on the 26th. Check your emails in case life gets in the way.
Facebook. You're not in our class, and it's just Facebook.
Oh, and if you're not in the class, just check Facebook in a couple of hours if you want to refer this to somebody else. Thank you. Amen. Love you guys. When we pray together, hopefully we'll stay together. Love to all. Yes. How fun. People I haven't talked to in a while. I'm glad you're on. I'm glad that this time when everybody's feeling a little vulnerable. Yes, we're off to Easter and we're going to have our Easter with us and the kids. Not big, but we're doing it.